listening to Here Comes the Booze, a very special podcast, Halloween edition.
Hello?
Hello, Sydney. Remember me?
What do you want?
It's time, girlfriend.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Here Comes the Booze, the podcast within the podcast. I'm Patrick M. Dunn. You probably remember me from the previous batch of episodes, and I'm joined here, as always, by Kat Halstead, the author.
Good evening, everybody. How are you this evening?
I am well, and we are still battling our way through the Halloween season. We've transformed our podcast into Here Comes the Booze temporarily. Don't worry. If you were worried, we will be back as a very special podcast soon-ish.
Soon.
Not too soon. So, tonight is a very exciting episode for us because we are venturing back into the world of cinema.
That we are.
We've done movies in the past. Notoriously, we've done A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Hocus Pocus, which were our Halloween picks for the last 2 years.
And we also did New Year's Eve and The Burbs.
I was primarily dealing with, like, Halloween themes.
Well, The Burbs could count.
Yeah, there was
totally done The Burbs as a Halloween one.
Yeah, we totally could have, but... you know what? I think we released it in October, so we probably
we did.
Like on the sly.
Yeah.
But it wasn't intended that way.
No, it wasn't.
It was supposed to be the start of our new season. And it got bumped. It's like when they air episodes out of order. TV shows do that a lot. Because the first episode's like really bad. So the second episode they save for a later date for some reason. Because they like retool the recent episodes. I don't know how that all works. So that's what happened this time around with us. So this was a request episode as well. May I add that in?
Yes, it was a request from our good buddy, Steven, who joined us on the Sunset Beach podcast, which was our anniversary episode.
Yeah, so we allowed him to come back for a second time. He's going to be joining us this evening to discuss Scream 2, the motion picture.
Yes.
Welcome back to the podcast, Steven. Glad you could return to the show and make tonight's suggestion for us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
As we previously mentioned, tonight's episode is going to be Scream 2, the classic 1997 horror film released in December 12th, 1997.
Woohoo! 1997.
Directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, who also did the first one.
Woo! I worship at their feet.
He's done them all, right?
Kevin Williamson, he wrote the first two, but Wes has directed all four.
Okay.
There's four. There are 4 Scream movies.
And what about the television series? Was there any affiliation?
I pretend it doesn't exist.
That's fine. It takes place in a different universe, I believe.
Yeah.
So some fun facts. The total box office revenue for this was $172 million, just making $1 million less than the original. And pretty much everyone who survived the first one came back for the second one. And we also got some new recruits this time around. We'll get into that as the show goes on. Production took place over the summer of 1997, with filming done in Atlanta and LA, which were used to represent Ohio.
Oh, they're supposed to be in Ohio?
Yes, I just found this out today when I was doing all my extensive research on this.
That was one of the questions in my notes, is what state is this supposed to be in?
I would never have guessed Ohio.
Right?
At all. Not for, the premiere of that movie to happen, the way it did. No.
Where did Party of Five take place?
I want to say California.
I just assumed it was the same place that Party of Five took place because Neve Campbell didn't want to travel. As I said, this movie came out on December 12th, 1997. Do you want to know what else came out that weekend?
Yes, please tell me. I'm so excited to hear what else came out that weekend.
The comedy For Richer or Poorer, starring Kirstie Alley and Tim Allen, which we were trying to remember the name of like a few episodes back on the podcast, and we could not, for the life of us, remember that movie.
Okay, so that came out the same day Scream 2 came out.
Yes.
That is crazy that we brought that up recently.
Yes. Also, another sequel came out this day, Home Alone 3.
There's a third one?
Yes.
It's one of those ones where you pretend it doesn't exist, and there's also a fourth.
Jesus.
The fourth one has the character of Kevin McAllister in it, but he's like portrayed by a younger actor, Dan Macaulay Culkin. And then, all right, so this is pretty exciting here. So, do you know what was slated to come out this week, but they bumped it because the movie studios were so worried about the hype for Scream 2?
What was it?
All right, the first movie is the James Bond sequel, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Okay, yeah.
And the next one is Titanic.
Oh my gosh.
Would have done horribly.
Okay, I see that. I see. Titanic had already been pushed back once, at least.
Yes, and
because it was supposed to be a summer blockbuster, and it didn't come out that summer, because I remember being like, what happened to that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio that was supposed to come out?
Well, you can't predict like how wildly popular a movie's going to be.
You really can't.
That movie got bummed for a whole week for Scream 2, so that's how much of an impact it had on, because this movie came out pretty much like exactly a year after the first one came out.
Yeah.
Filming started like right away.
Well, Kevin Williamson knew that he had more story to tell and had already started the script before like Scream opened.
Plus, he was knee deep in like Dawson's Creek and...
Oh, yes, this is right before Dawson's Creek started. Oh...
The Scream franchise, they're known for its iconic openings, usually involving some well-known name being brutally murdered, which usually sets the stage for things to come. This time around, we get Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps.
Mm-hmm.
Their characters' names are supposed to be like important to the story, and it took me a while to like really understand why.
Yeah.
Jada Pinkett's character's name is Maureen Evans, and Omar Epps is Phil Stevens?
Yes.
They're like two Windsor College seniors, which is the college that everyone in this movie attends, and they are murdered by the Ghostface Killer at the premiere of Stab, which is the movie within the movie.
Starring Heather
Graham, Tori Spellin, a pre-famous Luke Wilson.
Yep, and David Schwimmer.
And David Schwimmer as Deputy Dewey.
But we never actually get to see David Schwimmer as Deputy Dewey.
Maureen is in the theater. She doesn't really want to go see the movie Scream, or Stab, or whatever it's called.
She thinks it's white nonsense.
Yeah, she wants her Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, she'd rather go watch Sandra Bullock than a bunch of white people get killed.
Phil has the iconic line, "Ain't nobody gonna be paying $7.50 to see some Sandra Bullock shit, unless you get naked." I looked this up, so Sandra Bullock did not have anything released at this time, unless this movie took place a few months in the future, and it could have been Hope Floats, or a few months in the past, and it could have been Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Hopefully Hope Floats. Sadly, that's a better choice.
Yeah, I would hope for Hope Floats and not Speed 2. Speed 2 is awful.
Yeah, so Hope Floats came out in February of 1998, I think, so this movie could have taken place in the future.
Well, it's supposed to be a couple years since the original movie.
Really?
A couple years at least.
No? Are you sure?
I think so.
I thought it was about 6 months.
Really? You think it's only 6 months later?
Because I think it's their freshman year of college, and it was their senior year of high school.
Yeah, and I think like Gail Weathers at one point says something about the events that happened last year.
Oh, okay.
In Woodsboro or whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was like at least like a couple years had passed.
I get what you're saying, because in that time, she wrote a book, the book became popular, and they already filmed and wrapped up a movie based on it.
Yeah, that's like super fast. I'm just saying. I'm sure Gail had a chunk of the book already written based on the murder of Sydney's mother. But I'm also thinking about the fact that Sydney has been able to open up to having a boyfriend after her last boyfriend turned out to be a serial killer.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering. I was like, she really just moved on very quickly.
Yeah.
Already has a new boyfriend that she already doubts. Like, she even doubts him, like, right off the bat.
Well, you know, history tends to repeat itself.
All right, so we're back at the movie theater with Maureen and Phil. Maureen has to exit the theater for a few minutes because she wants to go get popcorn and a soda.
No butter.
She orders the popcorn with no butter.
Like, how lame.
Which tells you how much of a stick she has up her ass.
I honestly think it was a line that Will Smith enforced Jada to add in as to promote their image of being like America's leanest family.
Were they even together at this point?
Oh yeah, they've been together since like 95 maybe?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've been inseparable since the dawn of Will Smith as an international movie star.
Okay.
I also want to comment on how batshit insane it is that the way all the movie goers were acting during this.
Oh my god, it was crazy.
They were like running around the crowded theater in like the Ghostface killer mask. They had fake knives. They were pretending to be slashing people. They're just like running up and down the aisles of the theater. I would have been livid if I was there.
I would have been so pissed. I even put that in my notes.
Okay, have you guys gone to a horror movie on opening night?
I've seen Scream 2 on opening night. None of this happened.
When I went to see the new Friday the 13th franchise, that theater was insane. It was a bunch of like high school kids and they were screaming and running around. I mean, there wasn't costumes or anything, but it's pretty crazy.
They don't let costumes into theaters anymore because of the Dark Knight incident.
That was before the Dark Knight.
Yes. But it's taboo now, so this movie would have been like a relic of the past seeing this happen.
Yeah.
All right, so to get even more ridiculous, the reason why Maureen and Phil are targeted as the first killers, or the first murders, is because Maureen's shares the same first name as Sydney's mother, and Phil's last name is the first name of Stephen from the first Scream, who is Casey's boyfriend from the first film, who I completely forgot about.
So he's big and he plays football and he'll kick the shit out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
I completely forgot about him until Gail Weathers brings him up, because she said the character's name, and then I had to Google it, because I was like, who the hell is she talking about?
Okay, so I have to tell you this. When I went to see Scream 3 in the theater, I had to get up to go to the bathroom halfway through, and I was totally slightly terrified that something was going to happen while I was in the bathroom.
Oh, like the killer in the stall next to you?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Omar Epps gets murdered in the most lamest way possible. So he goes up to the urinal first to pee, but I guess it's occupied, so instead he goes to a stall.
Mm-hmm.
And he hears like some guy like on the phone, maybe like having phone sex with somebody.
Because that's totally something you do in the late 90s in a bathroom.
He's in a public bathroom stall and he puts his ear up to the stall. First of all, I would not do that. And then the killer knows exactly that he's doing that at that moment in time. So he stabs him through the stall and the knife goes into his ear.
That is so crazy.
Who do you think was the killer in the theater? Do you think it was Mickey or Mrs. Loomis?
I could see it being Mickey just because he's a film buff, but I think it was probably Debbie Salt Loomis lady. Aunt Jackie.
The same reasons, like my gut instinct told me that it was probably Mickey because he knows his way around a men's room. A part of me wants it to be Mrs. Loomis only because she saw that Maureen ordered popcorn without butter, and she was appalled at that idea because she was a former fatty, and she was just offended by this idea. And she's like, you know what, Mickey? Fuck it. I'm killing these two.
Now, when he went into the bathroom and the dudes are wearing the costumes and they're peeing at the urinal, I had a Scream costume. You can't pee in that shit.
No.
No, I got it, ripped up in my rollerblades once. Earlier that day, I tried peeing. It didn't work. I was like, crap, I have to take this whole thing off? I don't want to do that.
You got to back up for a second. You went rollerblading in a Scream costume?
Yeah, my friends were playing hockey, field hockey, and we crashed it and tried to interrupt them and see if they would guess who it was. Because like 4 of us had a Scream costume. So they were like, who is this? Because they saw my car and they thought I was driving the car. And it wasn't me. Yeah, I don't know. It's small town Pennsylvania. What else are you going to do?
Oh, I forgot about Maureen's death. All right, so the killer takes Phil's brown jacket, throws it over the robe, I guess is what we call it, goes back into the movie theater, sits next to Maureen, and we get to see a bit of the movie Stab. So it's Heather Graham playing the Drew Barrymore role. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how they got it like shot for shot. Like they knew exactly what was going on while she was being killed.
It's almost like it was a movie.
At the moment of murder, the killer then stabs Maureen in the theater.
Nobody cares because they're watching this murder on the movie screen, so they're not going to notice.
And you know what? I think they were secretly clapping at the murder too because she was like talking during the movie.
Oh, no, don't go in there. Bitch, hang the phone up and Star 69 his ass. Yeah, she annoyed me.
Why does she have to be naked?
I would be pissed if I was in that theater.
I did like that we got a Star 69 reference because when I saw the original Scream, I'm like, why don't they just Star 69 his ass?
Which, do you think people today know what that even means? Like my brother-in-law is like 17 or something. Do you think he would know what that comment would mean?
No, I was wondering the same thing because in the next scene, Sydney gets a phone call. Someone's prank phone calling her. and she looks at the caller ID and she sees it's like a guy named Corey Gillis calling her.
Yeah, she's got like this caller ID that you have to like add to your phone.
I thought it was funny because like, why didn't that person just do star 67, which temporarily switches your phone number to anonymous so it won't appear on a caller ID?
I forgot about star 67.
Maureen's dead. We now quick cut over to the college, and we cut over to Sydney's luxurious apartment at Windsor College. And then we get this like one by one introduction of the next slabs of meat who are up on the chopping block.
And did you notice in Sydney's dorm room, there's actually a sweater on the wall in the Freddy Krueger costume?
I did not notice that, but I read that, and then I was too lazy to go back and look for it.
Oh, so there's a red and green sweater?
Because someone had it in the first movie too, the janitor at the high school. So it was a nice little throwback.
Yeah, because Wes would totally slip that in.
All right, so the first new character we meet is Sydney's roommate, Hallie.
I have it as Hallie and Haley. I don't know what her name was.
I think it's Hallie.
I think it's Hallie.
I remember at one point halfway through the movie, someone said her name, and I was like, who?
Yeah, that's one thing is when you have all these characters, but nobody actually like says anybody's name, and you're like, who is this chick? And then you find out later their name was like Marissa, and you're like, who the F is Marissa?
Yeah, they introduced a bunch of new characters, and they really didn't get any character development because I don't think they wanted us to become too attached to these people because they would have either been killed or have been a potential candidate to be the murderer.
Exactly.
We wanted to get some people of color in this movie, so the role of Hallie is played by Elise Nail, and she fills the void of the token black friend.
Mm-hmm.
And she comforts Sydney after yet another crank call. From some frat punk pretending to be the serial killer. And, oh shit, like at the same time, Cotton Weary also just happens to be on the television screen.
Being interviewed by Kevin Williams, or Williamson.
Cotton's played by Liev Schreiber, and he wasn't in the first movie, right? I couldn't remember this.
No, he was.
Briefly, in like flashbacks or news clippings.
And there's like, Gail, like, doesn't Sydney go to visit Cotton in the first one?
No, she sees something on the news after the first night when everyone's killed, when Drew Barrymore is killed. She sees him on the news, and then she falls asleep on the couch, but you see him just in like the news report.
Okay, yeah.
Is it Liev Schreiber, though?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that, but, well, he's out of jail now, and after being wrongly accused by Sydney of killing her mother and the events prior to the first film.
But to be fair, Sydney had reason to think it was him. I mean, come on.
She should feel guilty, but he's now running the daytime talk show circuit like a pro.
Yeah. He's hitting up Oprah and Geraldo and Ricky Lake and all them.
No, he's not even going that high class. He's getting like hard copy and stuff like that. Like he's at the bottom of the barrel.
Well, do you think he went on Jenny Jones? Or was Jenny... Yeah, Jenny Jones was still on at this point.
She was pretty lowbrow.
Well, yeah, we already covered that once in the Doogie Howser podcast.
There's no way in hell Oprah's allowing...
Maybe Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yeah. Which, was that still on at this time?
Probably. I don't know. Yeah.
I think so.
Even though he's out of jail, though, Cotton Weary's been having a rough time because no one wants to hire him, even though he is innocent.
He's innocent, but he spent that time in prison. Nobody wants to hire him, yeah.
So he will basically do anything for $1. Before Sydney has a chance to feel truly horrible for screwing up his life, Hallie chimes in about some like sorority mixer happening that night, and Sydney's not really too keen on going to it because, you know, last year around this time, a good chunk of her friends were killed at a similar type party.
Well, you know, parties aren't fun once you've had to like bury all your friends afterwards.
Does she want to join the sorority? I couldn't really tell.
No, she was against it. She thought it was even worse than organized religion.
What do you think Sydney would have preferred? Joining a sorority or going through another murder crisis?
Probably the murder crisis. I mean, you saw the sorority girls.
That is true.
You mean like the Noxzema girl?
Yeah.
So it's Rebecca Gayheart and Portia de Rossi. They play... I don't know, do their characters even have names? I didn't even pick up on that.
I don't know.
They probably do, but we don't care.
Yeah, they're just sorority girls. They're most likely experimental, bi-curious girls fooling around with each other. And then they enjoy playing with enormous penises harmonica style.
Oh my god, I'm traumatized. Traumatized.
Before the recording of the podcast, Kat did ask what harmonica style was. Stephen, shall you explain what it is?
Alright. When a dick is too big to be sucked head on, you have to go side to side like you're blowing a harmonica. Left to right, not up and down.
It's a popular college move in Windsor, Ohio.
Okay, then are we done?
Lots of lots of big dicks in Ohio.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Ohio's deadly secret. And it's not a murder spree.
The choking spree.
Although, you know what? I think I did read one point in time that Ohio has a high murder rate for some reason, so maybe that's why they went with setting Scream movies there.
Ohio is pretty dreary.
Yeah, dark clouds. You probably have seasons, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible winters. So summers. Plus, you got Cleveland out there, too. Ugh.
Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks.
On the plus side, they have big dicks, apparently.
For every negative, you have to have a positive.
Yes, and I'm always good at finding the positive in things.
We are then reintroduced to the character of Randy in a very cheeky way. So while Sydney and Hallie are arguing about their martini mixer, some nameless extra runs in, and she does that thing that they always do in movies, like, "Hey, have you guys seen the news?"
Worst line delivery ever.
Then there just happens to be a television set right there, already queued up to the news segment. Sydney panics. She's like, "Where's Randy?" And she bails over to his film class.
Because she knows his schedule and knows exactly what classroom he's in.
Well, Hallie knew. Hallie told him. He has film theory.
Oh.
Or told Sid, sorry.
Sydney runs outside. She's immediately bombarded by news camera crews. They attack her. They ask her all these questions like, "Do you think there's another murder spree on the town? Do you think it was Cotton Weary?" Like all these things that they are just shouting at her. And speaking of Randy, he's in his film studies class sizing up the other members of the new recruits to the movie.
SMG.
Yeah, so we meet Cece. She's played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, SMG. She's a film nerd, a non-drinking sorority sister. She likes Party of Five, and spoiler alert, she's destined to die.
And she talks to, what's her name on the phone? Shit, I forgot her name. The girl that she makes out with. Thank you. Yes.
Selma Blair, yeah.
Yes, I had no idea that was her, like, for 20 years.
Also, Cece does not have a hard-on for James Cameron films, and she probably would have hated Avatar had she lived.
So she's kind of lucky in a way.
Yeah, so it's a win-win for her.
Right.
Also in the class is Mickey, played by Timothy Oliphant.
Oliphant, yeah.
Unlike Cece, he swings his dick for James Cameron. He's most likely a Tarantino fanboy, and spoiler alert, he's an obvious killer.
Oh, but of course.
Other than those, 2 facts that I spewed off about him, he has no character development in this movie. I think he only turns up in...
Oh, and apparently he's, Derek's best friend.
He shows up and he's always in the background here and there.
And he's very sarcastic whenever he does speak, which I do like.
Yeah, he's very Matthew Lillard-like in this.
Yeah.
I don't think he... Was he Sydney's friend? Because he seemed like he would have been more like Randy's friend.
He picked her up, or he was going to pick her up from the play. So they were kind of friendly.
Yeah, I think he's part of, their little clique.
I thought he had something going on with Hallie.
He's definitely part of their clique. When you're in college and you're in the dorms and you kind of make friends with, the people who live in the rooms around you. You might not really have anything in common, but you end up, friends with all these random people. That's kind of the idea I got, is that they all live in maybe, the same hall or the same building, and they all kind of just ended up hanging out together, because that's what happened when I was in the dorms.
I kind of picture him just being as a guy that just kind of shows up and no one just has the heart to tell him to go away.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
Or he probably knows where to score good drugs or something.
Right? He has a weed guy. This is my buddy Dennis. Let him hook you up a little bit.
Hey, give Mickey a call. He knows where to get the good weed.
He has his medical marijuana card.
Yeah. In Ohio.
Not yet, but soon.
Plus, we also get a special cameo appearance by Joshua Jackson, who most likely took a day trip down to Georgia for the filming. He must have had a break during Dawson's Creek filming, which was a few hours away in North Carolina is where they filmed it.
I was on that set once. I tripped over a light. I was very accident prone when I was 15.
Yeah, it happens. All right, so Sydney shows up outside the classroom. She summons Randy outside, and we then kind of round off the rest of the new cast, and we get reintroduced to some old favorites. Deputy Dewey, he rode his horse into town, and he's a little more twitchier this time around.
Oh, he annoyed me in this one. I was rooting for whoever to kill him. I'm like, please, just get rid of Dewey.
He had, nerve damage, I think, from the first movie, because he got cut up pretty good, so he doesn't operate too well in this movie. I should also point out, though, as the movie goes on, he gets noticeably less twitchy.
By the time of the fourth movie, he's chief of police.
He's no longer deputy.
right? No more limping, no more gimpiness. He's perfect.
I should also point out that in the first film, Sydney's all mopey because her mother was killed. In this film, she's all mopey because her last boyfriend tried to kill her. But both Sydney and Dewey, none of them bring up Tatum's death.
Yeah, what's up with that? Nobody, Tatum is never mentioned again.
And Tatum is Dewey's sister.
Yeah.
Had one of the best death scenes in the first movie, too.
Yeah, and beautifully recreated in Scary Movie as well.
Yes.
Yes.
And speaking of Scary Movie, Doofy, Dewey was renamed Doofy. And he pretty much is exactly the way David Arquette acts in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me sad for Courtney Cox.
Do you know what? There were some moments in here where I was watching this movie and I was remembering things incorrectly. And I was like, oh, you know what? That happened in Scary Movie, not Scream. Like the whole Gale Swallows thing.
Well, Scary Movie takes on the whole Dewey is the killer theory and makes it so with Doofy.
Yeah, it combines 18 different horror movies.
Sure.
But the hard copy van pulls up and we are reintroduced to Gale Weathers. And in the first 15 seconds of her airtime, she gets slapped in the face. She gets a new cameraman.
And she got hot. Gale Weathers got hot between Scream 1 and Scream 2.
Yeah, she has red streaks in her hair now.
Yeah, her hair is way better. I was sitting there and I'm like, damn, I want that hair. I was tempted to go chop off all my hair, and then I'm like, no, don't do it, Kat. You'll be upset.
I should do it to my hair.
There's a lot of Friends reference in this as well, in her first 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, who am I missing? Oh, we got Derek, Sydney's boyfriend, played by Jerry O'Connell, the new shifty-eyed boyfriend.
Now, if he's pre-med, what major does Sydney have if they miss shared classes together?
I assumed she was a theater major for some reason.
That's what I thought, and I was trying to think,
Yeah, I thought she was a theater major.
What pre-med and what theater kid would ever have a shared class?
Maybe he had extra credits to throw around.
Probably.
This is where my dorm theory comes into play.
That's true.
Alright, so Derek has zero personality, probably because they wanted us to think he was one of the killers for the whole 2 hours. He ends up getting shot and dying anyway, because Sydney has trust issues, and it mostly was Sydney's fault.
Yeah.
Sydney, I feel for you. You're going to die a spinster. You better invest in a good vibrator and some trashy romance novels.
Maybe she can hire Gale to write them for her.
And the last character we get to meet is Debbie Salt, which is the fakest name I've ever heard. She's played by Laurie Metcalf.
She's an older woman trying to get her big break, but she's idolizing this woman who's 15 years younger than her.
Yeah, she's probably been a low-level weather lady for some shitty Ohio news channel all these years, and she hears about this sassy young whippersnapper, Gale Weathers, how she just kind of broke her way into journalism, wrote a book, got it optioned for a movie, and now she hears there's a murder in town, and Gale Weathers showed up to kind of continue along the plot, and she's like, fuck, I'm gonna go check this out. But little do we know that she's actually the one orchestrated in all this crime, because Debbie Salt is not real. She doesn't exist.
Actually, I think she left before Billy even killed anybody. She left Woodsboro.
She is really Mrs. Loomis, the mother of the killer. The reason why nobody recognized Mrs. Loomis was because she lost 60 pounds in the span of a year, so she must have got the lap band surgery.
But as soon as Sydney actually saw her, she recognized her.
Yeah, she lost 60 pounds and had a lot of work done, is all Sydney says.
They couldn't get rid of her crazy eyes, though.
Oh, I love Aunt Jackie's crazy eyes. I mean, Debbie Salt's crazy eyes, I'm sorry. I have her as Aunt Jackie in my notes here and there.
Who, Jackie?
All right, so should we get into the first post-credits murder?
Yeah, who dies next?
Cece.
It's Cece next? Wow. Oh yeah, that's right. Duh.
It's a good send-off for SMG, who unfortunately couldn't hang around the set much longer. They probably shot this in between, some Buffy episodes and, maybe Simply Irresistible or something.
She had just finished doing I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is also a Kevin Williamson movie. But it's nothing like the book, and Lois Duncan is still salty about that.
There's something really funny that happens during Cece's murder scene. So she gets the typical serial killer, calls her up and goes through that whole spiel of what's your favorite horror movie and all these dumb little things that the killers in this movie always do.
Yeah.
There's one thing, millennials will never understand the struggle of the range of a cordless phone.
Oh my gosh.
Which ultimately is to blame on the demise of Cece. She barely got out the front door because she was going to call the security guards, and she lost connection.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking she must have had the receiver far away, like maybe upstairs instead of in that.
Yeah, it was probably like upstairs. It's probably in a central area of the sorority house. Because I remember in college, we always hooked up a cordless phone to the dorm room phone because we had phones in our room. And you'd always like want to like not talk in the room with your roommate around. So you take the cordless phone and you'd go as like far away as you could with it to talk to whoever you're talking to.
She lived in the sorority house, so they probably could have just left the phone in the living room.
Yeah.
Like the actual receiver. So that way you can walk outside or you can walk around the whole entire perimeter.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Someone moved it elsewhere in the house, and that's why she was slashed to death.
I guess. I don't know. I never went into a sorority house. We didn't have a Greek society where I went to college.
But the security company was awful. So she was trying to call the security company to save her life. And they were just like, I can't hear you. And they just kept hanging up on her. Not like, we should star 69 this and try to figure out where this person is calling from.
Yeah.
And actually, all levels of law enforcement failed the system in this movie. Because in the library scene where Sydney suspects the killer may be there, her police-appointed bodyguards leave her alone in like near like a long empty hallway while they go investigate the library.
Yeah, well, they go check and see like all the computer screens.
And all right, so the weirdest computer network is here. So if you get an instant message on these library computers, it freezes your whole screen because Sydney's like doing her homework and she's like, oh my god, my screen froze. And the guy next to her is like, oh, you must have got an instant message. Hit Control M and you'll get the message. And she like hit...
What kind of mess is this?
And then she hits Control M and then like on the screen pops up and says, you are gonna die tonight. And then she like panics and tries to run out of there. And that's where her bodyguards approach her. And she's like, the killer's in the library. And they're all like just scattered all around looking for the killer. She was probably safe just staying where she was.
Yeah, she was probably safe where she was with the detective.
But instead, the detective was like put her near the entrance where the killer could have grabbed her. Instead of the killer grabbing her, Cotton Weary comes in and he's trying to convince her to go on like Diane Sawyer or something.
Yeah, something that's gonna pay.
A similar thing happens with Sydney and her boyfriend. I think earlier in the film, just before this happens, she's attacked, I think, in her apartment complex by the Ghostface killer.
At the sorority party.
Was it at the sorority party?
Yeah, it was when they all went to find Cece's body. Sydney stayed behind and for some reason answered the phone. I was like, yes, because you are in this sorority. Answer the phone.
I always wonder what would happen if like none of these characters ever answered the phone. Would their lives have been spared?
Yeah, seriously.
And I wonder if that's why I don't answer my phone.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I let it ring until the voicemail picks up. I'm like, I'm not even going to let them know I saw them calling.
Then I listen to the voicemail and I decide if I want to like even talk to this person, whoever called me.
And shall we talk about Randy's murder? Randy getting savaged?
My poor Randy.
Deputy Dewey, Gail, and Joel, they're all in the quad. They've decided to, you know what, forget the police. They obviously are horrible at this. We're going to just solve this murder on our own.
Well, yeah, might as well. They did it the last time.
Yeah, and Randy's applying all the pre-established rules of a horror film sequel to it.
Okay, but what are the rules?
The murders are going to be more elaborate, and the body count is going to be bigger.
And we don't know the third rule because Dewey interrupted him because he's a douchebag.
Oh, it's number 3, never ever under any circumstance assume that the killer is dead.
It was in the trailer for the movie, but it actually got cut out of the film for some reason because Dewey interrupts her. So Randy explains the pre-established rules of a horror film sequel. Joel bails, and this is when Randy gets a call from the killer, and they realize that the killer can see them. So they scatter around the quad, and they just start assaulting people that are on cell phones.
And to be fair, there's not that many people on a cell phone.
They attack like 6 or 7 people on cell phones.
Right. Didn't someone get tackled at one point?
Yeah, but there's like probably like 40 or 50 people on the quad.
Gail and Dewey, they come from like 2 different angles, and like they chase this one guy behind a building and like assault him pretty much. And then they pick up, like Gail picks up the phone, and then she's like, "Who's this?" And then the person obviously on the other line was asking, "No, who's this?" And she's like, "It's Gail Weather, author of the Woodsboro Murders."
Gail.
She had to get her plug in there.
But of course.
So Gail and Deputy Dewey, they're off together trying to find the killer on the phone. Randy's by himself, and he's back in his back up to the hard copy van. That's when the van opens up. He gets pulled in by the killer, and you just... It seemed like it was supposed to be like a gruesome death, but you only see it through like the rearview mirror.
Yeah, you don't see that many details.
But we also have to make note of what Randy was saying before the van door opened about not Mickey, what was his name? Billy being a mama's boy, fuckwad or whatever the words were. Like, he went on a rampage.
Yes, he definitely went on a rampage about Billy.
We learn that he was killed by Mrs. Loomis. She also wears man's boots.
She could pull it off.
Because they show the killer getting out of the van, and you see the shoes, and they're men's boots. And then she slips back into her daytime talk show attire, or whatever it is, and meets up with Gail again.
Well, yeah, you can't kill somebody in pumps. Let's be real.
Well, she could have been wearing flats, or just...
Yeah.
They just wanted to have the audience just have this wild card as to who it could be.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so... Can we talk about the bizarre, theater scene that happens?
Yes. Okay, do we know what play that Sydney's supposed to be performing in?
I looked it up. It's a Greek play called the Oresteia.
Okay.
And it involves murder, and a woman is about to face death, and she has to overcome a lot of obstacles. So I guess it's supposed to be this symbolic representation of what's going on.
Uh-huh.
Instead, we have a hesitant Sydney. She doesn't want to do the play that much because of all the murder going on, but she just shows up to practice anyway.
Yeah.
And so does Mr. Ghostface, although I couldn't tell if she was actually imagining it or if it was really happening.
I still question it.
It seemed like he was there, but then she looks at the killer's mask, and then it fades into the masks that the actors were wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to know if she was actually really experiencing that or not. But the scene is important, I think, because it establishes the final showdown between Sydney and Mrs. Loomis and Mickey, because the elements of the play come into play later on, such as the collapsible set,
right.
Mm-hmm.
which Sydney uses her advantage to win. They had to make sure that they were showing people pulling the ropes and parts of the set falling and stuff.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sequences of the film is the car chase.
Oh yeah, where the detectives get killed and then...
A curfew gets placed on the campus. No one is allowed to be outside. I think they're going to escort Sydney out of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And so her and Hallie get in the bodyguard's car. They make it 1 block away from the station, I think.
They don't make it very far at all.
They stop at a red light. The killer just shows up, kills the driver, and the other guy, I think, gets out of the car and he attempts to shoot the killer, but the killer takes control of the wheel, and now he's driving along with the other bodyguard on the hood, and he's doing that thing where he drives through a construction section where he could hopefully lose him off the hood, but he ends up crashing. He or she ends up crashing. Sydney and Hallie, they're now trapped in the back of the car because it's a police car, an undercover police car, and they can't escape. But the bars that divide the front and the back seat, they're able to rip that down, so they have to crawl over the killer. And would you have found a way to kick your way out of the back window?
I would have tried.
She tries to push on the glass. Sydney, just taps the glass with her hand. She tries to push it and gives up. And she's like, I guess you're going to have to just climb over the killer, the two of us.
Yeah, I would have, gotten my shoes, because back then I would have been wearing, shoes with heels, and just kicked the shit out of that window to get the hell out.
They survive crawling over the killer. They get about 30 feet away from the car, and Sydney's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go back and see who the killer was. I just need to know. Then we can get out of here. And Hallie's like, no, you fucking dumb bitch. She's like, you're going to get killed. We're already this far ahead. We got a good lead. We can just disappear. Sydney goes back to the car. The killer's not there. The killer pops out and kills Hallie.
Who has the squishiest sounding stab I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, and she was just stabbing the shoulder or something too. It didn't even look like it could have been fatal either.
No, it was boob shoulder area, and it was the squishiest thing. I don't know how to explain it. A stress ball.
A lot of the murders in this, a lot of the knife sounds are really comical. There's just these weird swiping noises. I really think that the sound effects crew just had a lot of fun with this. Hallie's dead. We hardly knew her. She got her 6 minutes of airtime total, tops.
Right.
Her whole claim to fame was inviting Sydney to the martini mixer at the sorority house. And before we get to the final act, I kind of brushed over Dewey and Gail's budding relationship in this.
Well, they're basically exes at this point. They had a fling, and it crashed and burned, and Gail ditched him.
Because of Gail's book.
In the previous movie, they weren't major characters, I guess. They just kind of like showed up here and there. They were somewhat integral to the storyline, but in the second one, they're actually like they're part of the ensemble. Now they're unkillable. They'll survive the other two Scream movies. Like this, Scream 2 cements their future.
Yes.
Gail's been filming everywhere she goes around.
Yeah.
Her and Dewey, as part of their crime-solving skills, they realize that they're going to go through all of the old footage to see if they can see anyone lurking in the background that looks suspicious.
Or someone who shouldn't be wherever they are. Or someone who's, like, looking at Sydney all kind of funky.
So they kind of they want to do some investigation. So they have to go to, I guess, like the Film Arts building they go to. Every door's locked except for this big-ass theater. And they're mulling over the footage. They start making out.
Because, that's totally what you do in this situation.
They get about 6 seconds into, like, looking through the footage, and they just start making out.
I mean, totally, of course.
That's when the killer pops up. And on, like, a second TV screen, the killer starts showing events through the killer's eyes. This obviously was probably Mrs. Loomis's doing because she worked for a news company, I guess, so she probably had access to a camera crew and everything.
Are we sure she actually had a job as a reporter?
We're not.
And also, though, Mickey. Yeah, he was filming quite a bit in the beginning, I think.
That is true. He's like the Tarantino fanboy, so I guess maybe the two of them combined came up with this well thought out plot. The killer pops up, interrupts their makeout session, and now the killer's chasing Gail and Dewey through like the audio dubbing section, which is so you get these like weird foam walls. It's like a maze. There's that soundproof glass, and we seemingly see Dewey get killed. He gets stabbed in the back.
Okay, doesn't Dewey get attacked in like every single movie where you think he's gonna die?
The first two.
I think in the fourth one, it's Gil survives an attack. One thing I want to make note of on the fourth film, so that was after the divorce of Courtney Cox and David Arquette. They hardly have any scenes in the movie together. Like the only times they are communicating, it's over phone. So they didn't actually have to have the two actors present at the same time.
I need to rewatch Scream 4. I've only seen it once in the theaters.
Watched it this past weekend. It was fun.
Yeah, so. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay at best.
Better than Scream 3, but nowhere near Scream 2 or Scream 1.
Yeah, I kind of have a fuzzy memory when it comes to Scream 3. I just remember that it was Sidney's half-brother that ended up being the killer. That's all I can remember for some reason.
The only takeaway from it is Parker Posey is amazing. That's all you need to know for Scream 3.
Good to know. You heard that here.
Any scene with Parker Posey, that's all you need to watch. Just fast forward the rest.
So it ends up being a shorter movie than it needs to be.
Absolutely, and much better that way.
All right, so Gail and Dewey survive. Gail somehow ends up at the final showdown. So let's cut to that.
Final showdown!
I am so confused by how this movie ends. So in the previous scene involving Sydney, she escapes the killer's car. She escapes the car scene with the killer. She runs. The first place she goes to is the film theater or whatever, like the theater, like the playhouse, which just happens to be where Derek was kidnapped and tied.
Yeah.
Derek was tied up by the frat brothers for giving Sydney his necklace with the whatever their logo was, which was a big frat faux pas.
So the frat boys kidnap Derek, and they tie him up to like a cross, but the killers also kidnap Derek, bring him to the theater. Sydney ends up there, which is why I feel like there's like a missing scene somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like I think it was part of the rewrite, maybe.
Probably.
Like they didn't just. Like, I'm like, why would you run there? Why wouldn't you not go to the police station?
Because the police never help her out, let's be real.
Yeah, but she's going to go to a place all by herself. She enters the theater and she calls out her film, like that director's name. She starts yelling like he's going to do anything. And like he's going to be there late at night when they had a curfew.
Hey, it's Sidney Prescott. Someone's trying to kill me. Here I am. Hi, how is everyone?
It's like, let's have our showdown, bitches.
So she gets to the theater. She walks to the stage. The killer shines like a spotlight on her. From the ceiling, Derek comes down. He's tied to that cross thing. He has all like Greek letters and like penises and stuff drawn on his body. And the killer unmasks himself, and it's Mickey.
Yes.
And he goes into this long-winded exposition of why he's doing everything, because he basically wants to play like the meteor off as a scapegoat.
Yeah, he wants to like go to trial so that he can blame movie violence on why he's a killer.
Yes. And keep in mind, this is like pre-Marilyn Manson and Columbine.
Yeah.
So that defense will not hold up based on...
Based on reality.
Based on reality. Marilyn Manson is still out there performing music, and as far as I know, hasn't inspired any other crime.
Not yet, but he's trying.
So, Mickey, your defense is foolish. And I think Mrs. Loomis comments on it after she shoots him.
Yeah, she's like, nobody's gonna go for that. She's not here for that mess.
Crazy Eyes was right again. All right, so Mickey tries to convince Sydney that Derek still may actually be the killer after all, because Sydney starts untying him. He's like, why are you going to do that? He's just going to kill you like your last boyfriend tried to do.
Poor Derek. Derek definitely dies with Sydney thinking he's the killer.
Yes. Derek, sorry you had to date such a horrible person.
Who has such a traumatic past she can't move on.
To be fair, I don't know who could.
I would have definitely not have gone to college had all this stuff happened to me.
Yeah, I would not have gone to college right away. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed in Woodsboro either.
I'd definitely move out of Woodsboro. I'll probably leave the country, maybe take like 20 years off, and then kind of like slip back into reality.
Yeah, I would have just like gone somewhere where nobody knew who I was. Like, everybody knew who she was, too.
Yeah, well, there was a book and now a movie based on her life starring fucking Tori Spelling of all people.
And of course, okay, her and Randy go to the same college.
Yeah.
They go from like Woodsboro, California to Ohio together.
I think they just wanted to kind of stick together. You know, they went through a lot and, you know, like, fuck it, let's just go to college together. And
okay.
They were just going to be friends forever, but no.
Nope. Thanks, Mrs. Loomis.
Yeah, Mrs. Loomis and Mickey fucked things up. Fucked out the golden plan. So Mickey kills Derek and we know he's obviously not the killer. And Mickey's like, you know what? You know I couldn't have done this whole thing by myself. He's like, I would like you to meet the second killer, which I thought it was kind of dumb that they did a second killer the second time around. They should have just had...
Well, it's the whole placement. It's someone's on the phone. Someone's actually doing the actual murders.
But it's the same trick, like the same twist from the previous movie.
Though I maintained for years that there was a third killer in the first movie.
But they should have just stuck with a one killer in this. It should have just been Mrs. Loomis. That would have been much better. And they had to kind of create this whole fantasy world for Mickey in order for everything to make sense. And then he ends up dying anyway, so it was all worthless, basically.
Like Mickey.
Yeah, we learn Mrs. Loomis also has Gail with her. Gail gets shot. Like she gets shot in the boob or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same boob that Dewey was fondling when they were making out.
But of course.
This movie has a thing for left boobs. Not that I noticed which boob it was, of course.
Dewey might have like a magic touch. Like maybe if he touches your boob, it becomes like bulletproof.
Right?
Maybe.
Because he is unkillable. He has healing powers. Sydney uses her props and the stage in order to stop Mrs. Loomis, basically. She starts like cutting like the ropes. Things start falling from the ceiling. Lights, foam bricks, like a big foam pillar falls on her. Mm-hmm. She kicks a lot of ass in this movie.
Now, what's weird is you just called her Crazy Eyes, and I see that in my notes a few times because of Sydney calling her crazy versus that she's insane. And she's like, I am very sane. She has these eyes bulging out of her face. Only, what's her name, Laurie Metcalf could deliver that line with those eyes and get away with it and not make it creepier than it is.
Or comical at all. Yeah, and this was like fresh off Roseanne, Laurie Metcalf too. Like I think Roseanne just ended when they started filming this.
Yeah, Roseanne had just, this was right around the time Roseanne ended, yeah.
So she still had some Jackie vibes in her too.
She definitely had the Jackie hair.
Like when it first came out, I had no idea it was Jackie at first. Like, I don't know if it's because I was a stupid 13-year-old. But I was just like, this chick's familiar. And then after I saw the credits, I was like, wait, how do I know this name? And I think my mom had to tell me, that's Jackie from Roseanne. I was like, holy shit.
As far as mysteries go, the biggest mystery to me in this movie is, when did Randy find time to film the sequence for Scream 3?
Like right before he went to meet Dewey for coffee.
And why does he look older in Scream 3?
He just does, okay? It's just
because of the stress of people dying around him again.
Yes. Oh, okay. Final note. This is the real final note. What is your favorite sequel other than Scream 2?
Like of a horror movie?
Anything. It could be comedy, drama, TV series.
We're doing TV series now?
Anything, whatever.
Well, then my favorite sequel is Girl Meets World, obvious.
Okay. I would say either Look Who's Talking 2.
Oh, I do love that one. With Bruce Willis and Roseanne.
Mannequin 2 on the move. And there's a few good police academies after the first one.
God, I love the Police Academy movies. I am such a freak.
I think comedy sequels always play out better.
You know what's a good sequel? 3 Men and a Little Lady.
Yes, that's good. I enjoy that. Comedy sequels and horror sequels always play out better than like drama sequels.
Well, like a comedy and a horror, you can like continue a bit more easily than you can a drama. Though, you know what? I actually like the movie The Evening Star better than I do Terms of Endearment.
And I never even knew Terms of Endearment had a sequel, so this is news to me. Maybe we'll do that when we do like a serious sequel.
Like, it's got like Juliette Lewis in it.
Oh, Juliette Lewis?
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's a good time to wrap up. Again, thanks for rejoining us, Stephen. As I said, we'll have to have you back for our next movie. And definitely check out our website, veryspecialpodcast.tumblr.com. And what's our...
No. It is a veryspecialpodcast.com.
That's right. We have upgraded.
And you can tweet us at verypodcast.
And if you have any other ideas for things for us to do, if you want to be a guest, definitely tweet us. And we don't have an email address yet, so...
Yeah, we're still working on that.
We forgot our password too on the Gmail one, so if you sent us an email, we're probably not getting it.
Yeah, probably not. Doubt anybody sent them.
All right, so definitely join us next time when things may get spookier. Bye, y'all.